And so, here we are, with a bit of a companion video to the video from 2 days ago, where I answered questions from a potato. And one of those questions was about target audiences, and you can watch that video on the channel. But halfway through that video, I rambled on for 10 minutes about the books I read as a sophomore in high school. Books that were aimed at young adults, but had almost like adult levels of content. And I cut it out. I cut it out because it was really rambly. And I figured I could actually make it its own video and actually talk about the stuff I read in sophomore year of high school. I can pinpoint it, because I know exactly what year it was, and the books that I was reading. So I figured, let's just have a nice, like lean back on your chair and enjoy me talking about the really, really crappy books I read in high school. So let's take it from the top. Okay, why sophomore year? I had been in the US for about 2 years, I think. I've been in the US for 2 years. I did a few months of middle school, did summer school, so I could go to high school, did it my freshman year. And I managed to, even though I spoke no English before I came to the US, I managed to get myself into English 101. Instead of ESL English, English as a second language. I managed to just get myself into just regular English instead. And English 2, I think. English 102, 201, I don't know class numbers. But that was in sophomore year. And one of the general things that we did back then, I don't know if it's still done, but it was just like, hey, there's reading time allocated during the class time, and you had to pick a book and read through the entirety of it, or read through 2 books, or 3, I forget. Read through 3 books during the semester. And my teacher, Miss Crutchfield, she was like really cool in the way that you could bring your own book, or you could just pick one from like the big shelf of donated books that she had. They had to be donated because they were ancient books. And me, in retrospect, being the little awful person that I was like, I'll pick one of the shelf books, because they were old, and I figured I could find something interesting. And I never knew what to buy at Barnes & Noble. I was awful at buying things. I never knew what to pick. And there was nothing worse than going, oh, this book looks interesting, but it's like book 2 of a 6-book series, and I'm like, And they never had part 1. Oh, Barnes & Noble never had part 1s of anything. Anyhow, rambles out of the way. I wanted to talk about a couple books that I read in that particular year. I read a bunch of books by one such person named Christopher Pike. And I must have been 15. I must have been 15, maybe 15, maybe 16 at the time. And I picked a book from the big shelf, like a huge standing thing, of a bunch of books. And I was like, Miss Crutchfield, I'll pick one from the shelf. And I looked at it, all of them, and there was a book by Christopher Pike. And the book was titled The Midnight Club. And the premise of the book, it has this really cool cover. I'm like, oh, I wonder what it's about. There's a movie called The Breakfast Club, and that was okay. Maybe if you put it at midnight, it's like cool or something. It wasn't, spoilers. It was supposed to be about teenagers who shared stories, kind of like a Midnight Society kind of thing. You can almost tell where the cross-section is, because it's like The Breakfast Club and the Midnight Society put together. Wow, Christopher Pike, you're just so straightforward. Like, I just figured out what the story was supposed to be based on. But the whole idea is that the teenagers share stories every night. And the stories supposedly come true during this story. And they're always supposed to be like horror stories. That doesn't happen in the story. I mean, they do tell stories, and they're okay, as far as I remember. But like, the book has a bunch of other random things in it. And it says that it's a young adult novel. But there's a bunch of violence in it. And there's a bunch of sex in it. Like, a lot of it. Like, leading you into the ending of the story. Like, halfway through the book, there's so much sex that I'm like I'm reading it in class, and let me just make this very clear right now. It wasn't, like, exciting. It wasn't. I wasn't aroused or anything. I'm reading it in class, and I'm just like, yeah, I guess she did that to him, I guess. And I'm like, I really just wanted to know more about the stories, and I'm just kind of reading it, and I'm halfway through the novel. Okay, we're halfway through this like reading segment. I can't turn around now. What, am I gonna read another book? No. And there's a bunch of Christopher Pike on the shelves. I can't stop right now. What would Miss Crutchfield think of me? So I powered through the rest of the book. I finished that book. And I gave it to Miss Crutchfield when I finished it, and I wrote my report, and I was like, hey, Miss Crutchfield, I just want to let you know that this book has a bunch of sex in it. I'm like, I just want to let you know, just in case you weren't aware of it. This book has a bunch of sex in it. You should probably get rid of it, maybe. And it's great because it's young adult, but it has like sex and like 2 characters commit suicide, and I'm just like. Oh, also, like, the story is all about terminal kids living in, like, on the same house, and they all have, like, different kinds of, like, terminal stuffs, and I'm like, this is nothing like what the back cover, or the cover of the book were implying it would be about. It was weird. It was a weird book. It was a bad time. And then I remember that right when I finished it, and then we did the next cycle of book ratings, I was like, okay, Christopher Pike, I'm gonna give you another chance. I forget what the next book was, but the next book was pretty much about a clearly Caucasian white girl who had like Native American powers. It was weird. I did not finish that one. I put it down because I was like 1 week in. I'm like, okay, it's fine. I can pick another book from the shelf. It'll be fine. But man. Like you can imagine, like I get a question about target audiences and like what you should like you should really make sure that it is like age appropriate. And I'm reading this freaking book where like a bunch of terminal kids are committing suicide and having sex, and I'm just like, oh, Christopher Pike, thanks for that. Scrutchfield, I don't want to bother you, but this book has a bunch of sex in it. And it wasn't even, like, good sex in it. Oh man, those were good times. Alright, next books the next set of books. Because after reading that, I kind of thought, you know what? I should probably just read something that I would like. And I managed to get my hands on, yeah, it was at the Borders. At the mall, I found the books that I would actually learn to freaking adore in high school through sophomore and junior year. I found the Resident Evil novels by S.D. Perry. Now, before you go and think that those books were absolute garbage, no, sir, they were completely competent trash. Those were actually some really nice novels. I read like all of them except Code Veronica, I think. All of those books, I still own them. They're in the garage. I freaking love those books. Now, I assume that by now you all know what the Resident Evil series is. It's a series of horror survival games originally released on the PlayStation. And these novelizations follow the story of the games. And to the extent where I don't know if S.D. Perry, the wonderful lady who wrote these books, she also did a bunch of Star Trek novels. I feel like that was like how she managed to actually land this job. I don't know if she played the games, or if they let her play the games early, or if she just got a transcript of what the game is about, because she managed to weave in not only the story but also the mechanics of the game into the story. They're actually very well written books, because the spoilers, the Resident Evil games have very bad stories. They are awful stories with a bunch of plot holes. And she actually managed to like weave them in. It's like, hey, why is Jill able to like lockpick? Why would the police need someone who can lockpick? And it's like, oh, well, you see, her dad was actually a cat burglar, and he taught her everything he knew about stealing. And I'm like, okay, that kind of fixes that particular problem. And it's like, hey, why was Barry saying dumb things like,
that was too close. You were almost a Jill sandwich.
You're right. Barry, thanks for saving my life.
Well, there's a justification for that too. Those books were actually pretty well written. She did the first game. She did an offshoot like 1.5. She did the second game. That's a good novel right there, especially because the second game is my favorite. She did Nemesis. She did one more. I'm forgetting. Oh no, she did Underworld and then Nemesis, I think. And then there's like the last one, which is Code Veronica, that I never read because I never got it. Oh man, Those were some good books. Not as trashy as Christopher Pike, let me tell you something. I'm just looking at the preview window and I'm laughing because I'm still laughing at Christopher Pike. Those books were bad. Now, there's one more book. Because those Resident Evil books are actually completely fair. I almost want to go back and like reread them. Just to like see if they're... Because I remember reading them growing up and I'm like, I didn't think they were bad. I knew the Christopher Pike books were bad, okay? Like 15, 16-year-old Max was reading those books and going, yeah, this is dumb. This is actually dumb. I have like very vivid memories of a specific parts of the story, and they're all dumb. They're all really dumb. But anyhow, there's one more book that I want to talk about that I read in that sophomore year, and this is me halfway trying to see if someone knows what book I'm talking about, because I read it all the way through. I loved it. It's like an old, it has to be like an old, like 1970s, 1980s science fiction book. Because it was old, the pages were all yellowed to all hell. And I never put the name of that book to memory. And I'm gonna describe you what that book was about, okay? The cover for this book is blue, is bright blue. And it has an image that is like a chessboard on an angle. But instead of chess pieces, it has like little, like polygonal shapes and like aliens sitting on it, as though those are the figures on the chessboard. And this book, so it's a weird book, but this book is about a normal person, everyday person, who suddenly has new neighbors move in next door, and these neighbors are kind of strange. And when he meets them, he gets tossed into a magical board game that I can only describe as the Yu-Gi-Oh! Dice Dungeon Monsters game. I have like these intense memories of the narrator explaining the attack values of several monsters. Oh man. Oh man. You know that feeling when someone really wanted to make a board game, but instead they just wrote a book instead? If you know what book I'm talking about. I remember it was like bright blue, and it had like a chessboard on the cover. I forget the title of it. And I still have vivid images of the descriptions for the neighbors, because they were all beautiful. They were like JoJo beautiful characters. And then like, the main character being taught how to play the game. And like the whole fate of the universe revolves on him, like remembering the attack values of the Schwarzlerborgs and something like that. Oh, that slime monster was really strong, because it could absorb the attack value of whatever it attacked. Oh, man. If you know what book I'm talking about, please let me know, because I would love to reread that book and just realize how awful it was. But anyhow, this here has been like the best video I've made in forever, because it's just me laughing about the dumb books I read growing up. Man, books are so much better now. You have no idea how much better books are now, because oof. Do you remember the 90s? Hey, teens! Christopher Pike's got a new book for you. It's full of teenage sex and possible suicide. Hey, teens, you know what's cool nowadays? Not that. Anyhow, I hope you enjoyed this really silly video. What books did you read in high school? What are the bad books you read growing up? Let me know. Tell me about them. And if you know what that book was, what that book is titled, I would love to find that book again. I would love to pay like $2 on eBay and get a paperback copy shipped to my doorstep. But anyhow. As always, I take questions from the comments down below, so if you've got a writing advice question, let me know. And now, as we're rolling to the formal outro, I want to let you know that on the screen right now, there's some social media links. You can go find me and give me a follow, as well as checking out the links in the description down below for my novel planning guide and other things. Book recommendations, actually good books. If you want to know what are the 3 books that I think every writer should read, check the description down below. Now, if you enjoyed this video, if you enjoyed me laughing about dumb books I read growing up, oh man, I sure hope there's not a Christopher Pike fan in the comments down below. Oh no, the one. Oh no, I'm sorry. The Midnight Club is not good. And you know it's not good when you look up when you find the book and you look up reviews and everyone's like, yeah, this book's not good. This book is bad. Anyhow, if you enjoyed this video for some reason and would like to give me a little something something, consider buying me a cup of coffee. Link in the description down below, one-time donation. Now, it's been a long day for me, and I need to get editing these videos, so I want to thank you for tagging along. On the screen right now, Writing Advice playlist, button to subscribe, a link to my Patreon where you can watch videos early and get cool perks along the way, and a link to my other channel with my best friend Kitty where we play games, and we pretty much, if you like Laughing Max, you will enjoy that channel. But anyhow, thank you for tagging along, and I will see you next time.